All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Healing Intentions. This is your host, Dr. Adrian Mehmeti, and today I have a very special guest, another one of my new friends from MITT in this recent training that I've been taking part in my life, and love to welcome Clinton Buie to the episode today. Welcome, Clinton. Thanks for being on my show.
Oh, Adrian, it is a pleasure. And everybody who's on the podcast right now, he is a lot taller than he may look in real life. Yeah, we were kicking it yesterday, and he is a halfback for the 49ers. So don't let him fool you. He is a big dude. Like, listen to what he has to say. He's awesome. Yeah, thank you very much for having me. This is fantastic.
Awesome, man. Thanks. And yeah, and you're a big dude too, man. You're taller than me, and there's not a lot of people taller than me out there. So for sure, man. I appreciate that, and it's really great. It was really great connecting yesterday for your birthday. We all got to hang out there in Pasadena, all the local SoCal people, and it was a really, really good time, man. So I'm grateful for all of us being able to come together in honor of your day of birth.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Everybody who's listening, it was a lot of fun. And whatever you do, don't like. We had a lot of great food, and when we get into it, like yes, like 80% of the time I eat well, but I was going in, I was having a great time, fantastic. Like, yeah, but don't judge me on that. Like we got some nice good eating going on.
For sure. No judgment. Like one of my professors and mentors says, Dr. Lou, shout out Dr. Lou. She says, everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's that 80-20 rule, you know? So yeah, Clinton, why don't we start out by just kind of giving us a little background on yourself, what you do with your, career, and just kind of give us a little, journey summary up until this point today.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll start from when I was just a wee lad. That was in Shaker Heights, Ohio.
Okay.
Going to school to Shaker Heights. I'll try to keep it brief, but this is a podcast and we got space and opportunity. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when I was growing up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, my mom and my father were entrepreneurs, and my father was a businessman, and my mother was a software engineer, which was very rare.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, I used to see these large stacks of green. I don't know what they were. Like it looked like machine codes from the Matrix or something like that in my mother's basement. And it was the geekiest thing ever. I used to go downstairs. I used to open them up and like read them. I was like, what is all this stuff? And it turns out they were like COBOL programs. Wow. Like they used to print out large sheets of COBOL, and they used to be like, I don't know, like 3 feet by 4 feet. It was like really, really large. And my mother used to debug and program and stuff. So anyway, so not going into too many details about that. I didn't realize, but I was actually reading COBOL when I was like 3 or 4 years old. Wow. And I was like, what is going on here? So little did I realize that this would be my career moving forward. So I went through elementary school. I remember bugging my father over and over again. Hey, so when am I going to get that new computer that you're like? I was so spoiled. I was like, I didn't even realize I was spoiled. It's like, I know that doesn't sound good, like saying you're spoiled, but I grew up in a 2-car garage and stuff. But
I relate. Yeah. I relate very much with that. I realized a lot of that lately.
Yeah, I was like, now I look back, I was like, I actually had it pretty good while growing up most of the time. Yeah, but I just spoke to my dad, can you buy me a computer? Then he bought me a computer, and I actually started a business when I was in high school.
Awesome.
Like fixing people's computers. And my father was like, actually, you're pretty good at this. Like, this is the best investment I ever did. You took it apart, put it back together, and you do this for a living. We should keep feeding this. Keep feeding this. This is a good animal to feed right there because it lays golden eggs. So awesome. My father and mother were supported there. And I like took every programming class I could in high school, which was only one. Like everyone, like the intro to basic programming. And I was very fortunate in undergrad. I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be computer engineer. I wanted to build microprocessors, and I did that in undergrad. Got an internship at Intel. Realized, okay, that's like around the area what I want to do, but I want to do something a little different.
Mhm.
Started doing software programming. The back in 2000, wow, this is a while ago. Like back in 2000, like 10, 2009, they had iPhone programming when it first came out, and it was just fantastic. I was like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. Um, and I started doing that. One thing led to another. Had a bunch of jobs. People were like, oh, this is in demand. Uh, all the way up until now, I'm working at Google as a software engineer, at YouTube, doing the same thing I did for fun when I was in grad school, uh, building nice products on YouTube. I can't disclose what some of that stuff is, but I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure most of you will be using it, and I will be using it too. Sometimes people while they're driving, some
Wow.
like, we're going to see what happens here.
Wow. That's exciting, man. And you also your education, you ended up going to Stanford as well. What did you study there? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. So when I went to Stanford, I was still on like the computer architecture track. So for everyone, the difference of computer architecture and computer software engineering. One is actually building the hardware, like the software microchips, and the other is building the software that runs on top of it. Okay. So I was more focused on building the hardware. So when I went to Stanford, I started doing research. Bill Daly, this guy is amazing. This guy, like, he went to MIT, went to Caltech, and I was like, oh my God, it's the demigod of programming. And he was just like really smart. Like, it really, like, everybody there was like super smart, super on top of their stuff. But I knew, like, back then, like, I did research, but I didn't kind of want to do research. And I really liked like more hands-on building things. And so when I went to Intel and I did it more full time for about a year, I came back. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to do more software. And so at Stanford, the stuff I kind of studied at the first half was around, okay, how do I build a microprocessor? How do I build a CPU, a processor from the ground up? I'm talking about uh, NAND gates. I'm talking about down to the gates, like the silicon, the signals, just everything. And then after the second half, I focused completely on, okay, now that I've built it, how do I program it at the software level? And so some of the classes I took were around. I audited a compiler's course. I thought that was like really cool. That's like, there's certain courses where if you take them, you just feel like an animal after. Like, you feel like you can do anything in life. And like compilers, operating systems, like building an operating system. Oh my God, you're like,
Wow.
you feel like you can do anything.
Can't imagine, man. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, totally. So I took those courses, and then then I started working, and then when you work, really you really only use like about 5% of it. So so yeah.
So what was your actual like studies there?
Hmm. So the actual major was electrical engineering,
Okay.
and the some of the to be a little more specific, electrical engineering with a specialization in computers and software. So in regards to some of the other classes that are kind of around that, like you get a chance to take, like, can you build web programming? Can you build like iPhone programming? And can you build uh, like read research journals and papers and stuff like that? But for the most part, it was primarily around computer systems and the software, the hardware, and yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I don't know that much about technology, but I had an interest in software engineering. I thought I was going to do that as a career. I took a C++ programming class in high school, and then I realized real quick, nope, this isn't for me. But, it's good to realize that early on. But I always have had a fascination and interest in technology, and just the innovation and how exponentially it's been growing and all of that. But from what I understand, people kind of tend to specialize in software or hardware, right, and go like really deep into one or the other. But you're like a really unique balance of the two, and it reminds me a lot of like yin yang, and the balance. And like no wonder you're into tai chi and yoga and all of these Eastern medicines that are all about the balance. Like, is there some coincidence there? Or
That's a really good observation. Now that I think about it, it is rare. Like, usually you see people, they specialize in making novel processors or making novel signals and systems, or like anything around a cell phone or anything around like a computer, like they focus on the hardware or they focus on the software. They focus on building like a large scale system or like an app. It is actually very rare to find an engineer who has a pretty good understanding from like the entire stack, like from hardware to software and how to build something from the ground up. Uh,
You know what
and
I appreciate about you, Clinton? You're very humble, and I relate with that as well. And you said you're pretty good understanding where we're really you have a expert level understanding. I would say probably of both, right? So I appreciate that in you. I acknowledge you for your humility for sure.
oh, I'll definitely receive it, but I definitely know some people. Oh my God, they are some smart. They are some smart
Oh,
people. Stanford will humble you. Like
I'm
people will be
sure.
like, "Oh, you're a really smart individual." Like,
I'm sure. And that's what it's all about, right? You surround yourself with people that are even smarter than you, and it helps, like, bring you up to a new level. And you've seen that time and time again, I'm sure.
totally.
That's cool, man. That's very cool. Thanks for that background. Very, very impressive and interesting and inspiring. So I appreciate that. And so what about uh like what led you into really being into health and the recreation side of things? Like what's your story behind all of that?
Oh, cool. So yeah, I got a few stories of how that kind of happened. And when if I look back at my life, I grew up mostly in sports. I grew up mostly around um, athletes. My father was a sports agent, and so he had professional athletes sometimes come by the house,
Awesome.
uh, and we traveled around for AU. And so athletics first gave me my foray into medicine and health because in order to perform and to do well, to have that edge, you have to have the best sleep, you have to have the best nutrition, you have to have the best
Mm-hmm.
mindset, you have to have the best all around. This is early in my developmental years. And but what was the impetus towards me really focusing on it was because of my mother. My mother, when I was around 10, 11 years old, she started to develop symptoms, more noticeable symptoms of multiple sclerosis. And eventually around 12, she became permanently disabled, where she couldn't work anymore. And this sort of caught me by surprise, but it kind of didn't because the way our family operated, we were always into natural medicine. We were always into chiropractic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, naturopathic medicine,
Mm-hmm.
homeopathic. We were doing homeopathic medicine in the 90s. And
Awesome. I
so
love
we were,
homeopathy.
yeah, homeopathy is fantastic for emotional and spiritual blockages.
Oh yeah.
Very fantastic for like functional medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but so we were exposed to that at a very young age in the 90s because Western medicine for multiple sclerosis was not really that great back then. It was
Mm-hmm.
not. And so my mother did, she basically became her own doctor after about a couple of dozen Western medicine doctors had a hard time even just diagnosing her. She started going to traditional Chinese medicine doctors and receiving herbs and treatments for the constitution of her body and just kind of everything that was going on. And so she started feeling much better. And from that point on, she was mostly natural medicine. Now, like she's much older and the disease over time, it's taken its toll. But she's 70 now.
Mm-hmm.
She's had like a couple decades of really like decent years of not being in so much pain and moving forward. But
Yep.
no, natural medicine and and but they call it alternative. Adrian, they call it alternative medicine. I really don't like that. I
No.
really don't like how they call it. Mm,
Yep. That's a play
yeah,
on words there. You recognize that. Why is it alternative? Alternative to what? Like what's the standard? And this is the alternative when really this has been the standard traditional way of doing medicine since the beginning of human history for thousands of years. And
years.
and it works because it's in alignment with nature. And when you're out of
Hey,
alignment with nature, that's where disease develops, right?
exactly, and it bothers me tremendously that So Adrian's you're a naturopathic doctor.
Hmm.
I actually use naturopathic doctors as my first. It is my primary medicine. I do not use naturopathic doctors as an alternative source. They are my primary source.
Yes.
They are trained in not only Western medicine, but also several other modalities, depending on how they go through their track within medical school.
Right.
They can be trained in traditional Chinese medicine, homeopathic medicine. They can have a focus on Ayurvedic medicine. And
Mhm.
so they just know more about how the functional body works. And I'm sorry, I just cannot get behind the whole alternative medicine definition. In my opinion, it should be the first source of medicine, and then Western medicine should help diagnose and then help triage, but not as a primary source of medicine.
Yeah, man. Maybe you can be our insider source in the big tech world, to let them know about that too. With all the companies and all the stuff that's been going on, it's been real crazy. I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole, but you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, there's that definitely is a rabbit hole. There is a movement to marginalize. There's always been a movement to marginalize naturopathic medicine.
Yep.
It's wonderful that in California it's licensed.
Yep.
I love the licensure in California and Oregon, going up to states.
Yep.
I believe also in Washington as well.
Washington, Arizona. Yeah, we have full scope in Washington, Arizona. We can prescribe all pharmaceuticals, everything. Insurance is taken. I mean, it's big time in those states. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
how it should be in every state, and that's what we're pushing for. Full licensure in every state. But the politics, there's more money spent on lobbying for healthcare. It's like twice as much as what's spent in oil lobbying. So it's enormous. Uh,
I hope everybody heard that. 'Cause that should frighten you. Like
yeah,
where oil fails compared to pharmaceutical
yeah,
oil. That's like everybody drives.
right. And what's more important than our health, right? And the amount of money and the way that the industry has been developed. If you study the history and the whole influence of corrupt money and power, and how that changes the policies, and then that changes this medical education system, and the way that research, and what's the double stand, the gold standard is this double placebo randomly controlled trial, which takes millions and millions of dollars to produce for something. It's like, who's funding that for water? Who's funding that for ashwagandha? Who's funding that for eating like a plant-based diet? Like, it's hard.
It definitely is hard. It would be actually. So Adrian, this brings up an idea that I had a long time ago, and I think there is a startup that might be investigating this. But what are the pharmacokinetics of some of these natural substances? That just having the study or a compendium of knowing the half life of cilantro within the body at a certain dosage within certain body weights.
Right.
Has anybody actually studied that? Because then the medicinal properties can then be extrapolated into treatments, which can be exactable and producible amongst
Yep.
people that are of different body weights and sizes. And so
Yep.
I've had that thought in my mind. It'll take a massive research effort, a massive effort of investment, but I do think it's important because people eat all the time, and having food as medicine would be, in my opinion, far more effective
Yep.
than spending billions of dollars on a pill that might work 30% of the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I really don't know if that's like the best way for us to go. So
Yeah, yeah, man. Well said. And there's a quote I love: "You either pay the grocer now, or you pay the doctor later." And it's like Hippocrates said thousands of years ago, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Like they know what's up. They know that food, is that lifestyle contributes up to 80 or 90, even 95% of diseases out there is lifestyle related.
oh, and it's Adrian, it's so interesting. Like the Eastern medicine like they understand this. They understand not only like lifestyle, not only food, not only what they eat, but the properties of the food,
Yep.
your community. Like they actually have prescriptions for what needs to happen with the community to
Hmm.
bring a person into homeostasis or to cure certain diseases or to reverse certain diseases. It's amazing. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think the mindset, the Western mindset, is really going to have to go through a metamorphosis and a change for us to see the type of holistic medicine as standardized and way to think that I think that we're both hoping that would happen. Um, so
Yeah, we're going to be doing our
something.
part. We're going to be doing our part, it sounds like, when we already are, and just continue, being that way first, right? Be, do, have. And it's about being that way and who we are first. And then the rest follows, So your vibe attracts your tribe, that whole phrase. And I really believe that. And here's our tribe we've attracted, and all the others that will attract that are coming. So I'm excited. And yeah, your idea is being done, but it needs to be done a lot more with a lot more money and focus on it, for sure. 100%. That will be done, whether it's you and your tribe or someone else. It's going to be done, and it's much needed. So you're absolutely spot on. There is a lot of pharmacokinetics and studies, and we learn, like 250 herbs in naturopathic medical school. That's one of our many modalities, botanical medicine. And we get into like all the constituents and how they act and how the mechanisms of action, like just like a pharmaceutical, deep into each herb, and then how it works, and then how they all blend together. We take a whole class on formulation, and like how this one acts with this one, and then the synergy that's developed is just beautiful. I want to just share this because I just am so excited about it. There's a mushroom chocolate bar that since I moved to California, I've met 3 people making psilocybin mushroom chocolate bars. And it's incredible. It's incredible. That's the future for sure. And they're strain specific, golden teachers. And not only that, this one guy, my latest connection and friend that I'm so grateful for, he puts organic ginger and organic turmeric along with a little bit of black pepper in the bar to help not only with the absorption, but the
Wow.
ginger helps with the nausea that most people get when they ingest mushrooms. Brilliant. And it's effective. I've tried it and it's amazing. And it's just like, wow, it's so exciting when you can combine what we know about nature and then like, ever evolving research that's coming out. I'm like, wow, this is why it works. Like they know about a lot of these things. It's like the research is just kind of showing the mechanism and and the detail and the proof behind it. But, the results have been there for thousands of years for all this stuff we're talking about. So it's incredible.
Oh yeah, totally. You've got me excited now. Like I was aware that some research was done, but you're right. We need it on a much broader scale. It needs to be much more ubiquitous, and people need to understand. Like, no, we can prescribe a formula for our life and eating, and living and breathing within a community, and that can bring people back into homeostasis, bring people back into natural means of health.
Yep.
And yes, I'm 1000% on board for this.
Awesome. I'm glad you're enrolled in my vision. Thank you for that. And man, I'm just so excited because you just said a great word, homeostasis. It's all about balance. Your body's constantly striving for this homeostasis, right? And one of the things why I'm so passionate about cannabis as a medicine is that cannabis allowed us to discover our body's endocannabinoid system, our body's own endogenous, like, which means we make it ourselves, cannabinoids. And then when you put in this external phytocannabinoids, the way that it all interacts and helps us to balance out is just super, super powerful, incredible. That's why I mentioned CBD. And I'm a big fan and proponent of it because that's what it does. It gets all the medical benefits, what you're trying to get out of the cannabis plant without the psychoactive, THC side effect that some people don't desire, which is fine. But the CBD has a lot of those benefits to kind of just balance everything out. Your body's endocannabinoid system literally affects every other physiological system. It's like the the conductor of the orchestra of your body. So it's just really beautiful. It's just really beautiful. And we're just scratching the surface of that. It literally just got discovered in 1990. So much more to come.
Yeah, totally. The interesting thing, like this actually brings up an interesting topic. I don't know too much about this, but I have been exploring this a little bit more, and this is around um, why, in your opinion, has there been such a backlash with CBDs, marijuana, and the licensure? Like in my mind, I have always thought it's like okay, for medicinal purposes, it makes total sense. But why was there always such a why was like marijuana chosen as a substance which could land certain people in jail for a long period of time? Like in my mind, it just didn't make sense to me
Yep.
why certain which clearly have benefits for cancer use, which clearly have benefits for for very terminal or chronic health ailments,
Hmm.
clearly has benefits, but was also criminalized. I never, so possibly you can educate me about this because this is something I've always wanted to know. Like
Oh yeah.
if you know anything, it's cool. If you don't, it's cool. I I just did not understand this.
Oh, I know a whole lot about this, and I could talk about this for many hours. We don't want to make it all about the topic of this podcast, but man, there's a few books I'll recommend you, documentaries, different things that you can really dive deep on this. But in a nutshell, the history of cannabis. So I like to first start off with the education of like the botanical name of this plant is cannabis sativa or cannabis indica. um the word marijuana is actually a made up racist slang term that they use to associate it with like in the 1920s and 30s when like there was a lot of Mexican immigrants coming in, and like they were bringing in a lot of the cannabis, and like there was a lot of the jazz musicians back in the day, a lot of the black jazz musicians were consuming it a lot and loving it and using it very much in their music, and big part of the culture and the vibe. So they made up this word marijuana to like associate it with like marijuana. Like it's a completely made up word. It doesn't mean anything. It's made up to the associate it with like, oh, the blacks and the Mexicans are smoking this like devil's herb. Stay away. It's scary. It's dangerous. And it's like, why would they do that? So you dig a little bit deeper. Why? Well, if you look into the properties of hemp, and that is the only difference between cannabis and hemp is the amount of THC in it legally. It's the same plant, but hemp has below 0.3% THC or less. So it doesn't get you high, but it has a CBD, it has all the other properties. If it's grown like for fiber, and you can make paper out of it, you can make clothing out of it, you can make rope out of it, you can make all these different, it can replace plastic, it can replace fuel. Little known fact, Henry Ford's first car was made out of hemp and it ran on hemp fuel.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yeah. Not a lot of people talk about that, right? So the power of hemp is just huge for like industrial. They say like hemp to save the planet, cannabis to save the people. And like when you realize the power behind this plant, then it's no wonder like, okay, well, they had to like spin it and put some propaganda on it. And that's exactly what they did. They put out movies like Reefer Madness that showed like, if you smoke this plant, a bunch of black guys are going to come out of nowhere and you're going to have sex with them, and it's going to make you go crazy, and you're going to jump out of the window and your life's going to be over because you took a toke.
Hmm.
Like crazy stuff they would literally make up and lie to people to get this fear is a very, very powerful emotion, right? It's either love or
Hmm.
fear, as we learned about. and
Interesting.
and so the fear was planted so deeply into people, and then the whole like hippie movement happened in the 60s and the 70s, and they got way out there with it with the psychedelics, and they took it way overboard for sure. We're trying not to repeat those same mistakes again in this whole movement that's happening. But with cannabis, it got this bad name again. They did studies that show that, hey, there's actually no harm, there's actually potential medical benefit, a lot of medical benefit, and no harm. It's actually safe and effective. It's not possible to overdose and die from cannabis. The receptors, the cannabinoid receptors, aren't on the part of our brain that controls our breathing and our heart rate. So no matter how much you can consume, it's impossible to overdose and die. There's never been one death from cannabis ever.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
you know, that all these reasons, all these things that come up. And then in 1971, Richard Nixon did the Controlled Substances Act. And despite all his advisors and people telling him this is actually safe, it was a political thing. It was a control thing. They didn't want all the hippies saying no war. They didn't want all the black people doing all the whatever they're doing, rights and civil rights and all these things, right? And all these things that are happening, they're like, no, 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 we can't control people, but we can control drug policy. And that's what they did. 1971 Controlled Substances Act. Cannabis is a Schedule 1 drug, same as heroin. What?
What? Yeah. See now, Adrian. Now this is great that you're telling me this, because I'm always skeptical of anything that's used to. And yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole with this one, but
Oh yeah.
in regards to mass incarceration for like something that is not even.
Yep. You're 8 times
like,
more likely to be incarcerated for cannabis if you're black or Mexican. 8 times more likely. Over 50% of the prisons are full of people for simple drug possession. I mean, it's literally, there's an awesome documentary about this called 13th, about the 13th Amendment on Netflix. And they talk about how racism has just continued, and it's just through drug policy now and the way that the prison systems work and everything. It's crazy, man.
Oh. So ladies and gentlemen, we first start with healing and we get to justice for the people. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how this works. And
yes, sir.
There's so many things. I honestly did not know that about marijuana, or I did not know that about cannabis or hemp. I didn't know it was made of word, but I just instinctively knew that it was something that I just can't get with it. And I can immediately see how that could be used to incarcerate and actually use for basically free labor within the prison industry for people of color. And so something that let's take it back. Something that was originally meant to help people is now used to basically imprison and incarcerate people, and actually used for free labor. It's pretty prophetic and pretty profound at the same time. It's like, it's scary.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that I'm glad we went down that path, because
that's why I just want to say one more thing about it. That's why I'm so excited about all this stuff happening, because I believe it's the catalyst to changing the whole paradigm around all of this stuff. Too many people are waking up and realizing like, oh, wait, I've been lied to by our government about cannabis. Is there other things they might be lying to me about? Oh, well, yeah. A lot more.
Yeah.
And then you go down that path.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Edward Snowden, he pretty much blew the lid off of it right there. So, well, once again, the rabbit hole is deep. We can definitely go down that path for a while.
For sure, man. But I'm glad that to educate you a bit on there, and that's what it's all about, man. You know, I wrote in my vision, it's about educating and empowering people to realize that they are their own self-healers. That's it in a nutshell, right? And if you got the education and you realize, oh wow, I'm not so reliant on the guy in the white coat. Yeah, he's a smart guy. Yeah, he cares, but a lot of the time, you know, it's not their fault. They're just stuck in this system that is serving more so the shareholders than the patients.
Exactly.
You know? So yeah. So now on to more positive healing topics. Tell me more about your practices and Tai Chi and yoga. I mean, that's a whole few podcast episodes right there, but just tell me about that whole world.
Oh, okay, cool. So for everyone that's listening, and also people who have done Tai Chi for a while, who are avid Tai Chi, just are getting started, or just be like, why am I doing Tai Chi in the first place? Like, I got started in Tai Chi from a naturopathic doctor.
Awesome.
When I was at Ohio State University. And I remember I came home for spring vacation, and I was pretty stressed out about my exams. And he started giving prescriptions. And I was like, what is this prescription? Oh, I want you to do these breathing exercises for 15, 20 minutes a day. I'll say, okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. I'll do these breathing exercises. His name was Dr. Michael Frost. His book is on Amazon, I think, still. Um, but that was my first exposure to Tai Chi, and it was fantastic. I was amazed at how calm and well centered and collected I was becoming from doing short form, 24 yang form, 48 form. And now bear in mind, I am no master. I've practiced it off and on for practiced yoga and Tai Chi off and on for shoot since then, since for about 20 years. And but I continually come back to it, and I promise you later on, like now and later on in life, I'll probably may only do Tai Chi and yoga because quite frankly, um, a lot of a lot of the movement meditation, a lot of the issues that happen to us on a daily basis emotionally get stuck in our body.
Mm-hmm.
And the more those blockages are cleared, the 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 happier we become, the more healthy we become, the more clear mind we become, the more energy we have, the better sleep we have, the better digestion we have.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I find myself getting super busy, and this is interesting because Adrian in tech is kind of the opposite. Tech really kind of divorces itself from the body
Mm.
and focuses on completing a task no matter what. Like I need as much caffeine, I need as much sugar, I need as much whatever to get the job done, completely not thinking about what this is doing to my body long term. So oftentimes in tech, you'll see people be absolutely thoroughly successful driving a multi-million dollar, billion-dollar startup, and their life is completely out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
And their body's breaking down, and they need to see a bunch of doctors, and they hardly have anything in place.
Right.
And and oftentimes, and this is also interesting, they come back to Tai Chi, they come to yoga, like I do. Some of my practices, like every day, I try to get at least 30 minutes of Tai Chi in. I try to get at least a couple of yoga classes in a week, along with, and you guys are gonna knock me on this. Like this is the most healthy thing, but CrossFit. I do
Yeah.
my own,
No,
like high
CrossFit is
intensity interval
great.
training.
CrossFit is great. You know, it's all about balance. It's how you take care of your body and do the recovery afterwards, right? Which I know you're doing very well. And that's that yin yang of you're balancing CrossFit out with Tai Chi and yoga, you know?
It is a balance, and it is sometimes I guess being a man, like it's easier for me to do the hard things, lifting the heavy weights, and
Right.
feel like I'm getting stronger versus
Right.
the softer arts. Tai
Right.
Chi is very, very soft, and yoga is
Mhm.
very soft, and but it's just as challenging
Mhm.
to realize that your body isn't as flexible, isn't as limber, isn't as fluid as I would like, and I get more benefit doing both than doing either one or the other.
Mm.
And so I guess the challenge in my practice, in my daily practices, is making sure that I get both in per day. That is actually very challenging. Usually, I'll either get one or the other,
Mm.
and then I'll do yoga and Tai Chi on one day, and I'll do the heavy lifting on another. But it's great when I can get both in the same day. It's fantastic if I'm not too busy. I do struggle with the whole having so much I've committed myself to, and looking back, like, why did I commit myself to that? Or why did I allow myself to get into that? Like, oh,
Right.
why did I do that? Okay, well, I need to get back to my practice of Tai Chi or lifting weights. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. No, I think there's a common thread in our group that there's a lot of people that are really successful into their work, into their careers, and it's all about that like finding balance and like slowing down and you know the vitamin R that we talk about in naturopathic medicine, rest, recreation, relaxation, all of that. That's so an essential nutrient, just as any other nutrient is really. But you know, what I wanted to say is yoga, a lot of people have become more familiar with these days, for sure. It's really blown up. I feel like Tai Chi is a little bit more unknown. Do you want to just like, from your perspective, quickly, just what is Tai Chi to people and where could they go to kind of learn more? Where would you direct them? Because honestly, I don't even know myself that much about it.
Okay, so this is interesting. So there's many forms of Tai Chi. There's Sun, Wu, Yang. And there's what's Chin? Yes, Chin is the oldest form. Chin was the original form. It came from the Chin family several centuries ago.
Mm.
And to be honest, I don't think it's completely known where the forms developed, but it started from the Chin family and then the branch families came out. Uh, what's interesting is that Tai Chi has evolved in so many different forms. Where if you go to a particular martial arts studio, you'll see a different. They'll see them every studio doing a different form,
Mm.
and you're like, well, that kind of looks like this, and it kind of looks like this, but that looks. And you're like, well, why is it so different all across?
Mhm.
Well, Tai Chi is a martial art. And so, where people fail to realize is that, yes, it's used for relaxation. Yes, it's used for meditation. But there are very deadly and very practical aspects to Tai Chi that, when one understands like how body mechanics work and how the breath works,
Mm.
it provides the practitioner an incredible amount of leverage to defend themselves from a plethora of different physical attacks. And so, if I were someone looking into martial arts and understanding, like, what martial art could I learn where I can understand leverage, where I can understand using the least amount of force and getting the maximum amount of impact, Tai Chi is where I would start. Now, here's the problem. Here's the problem. A lot of people use Tai Chi for health, for the medicinal aspects, for the meditation, for the movement, to just for exercise. And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic for that. If you don't learn anything about the martial aspects, you're going to get like a whole bunch out of Tai Chi.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until I started training under um, one of my previous teachers that I'm gonna leave his name out because I'm not sure if he wants to be on the podcast, but
Sure.
he probably wanted like
Yeah.
probably want to remain silent. But I used to go to the Palisades and I used to like train this guy, and beautiful house. That's why I'm leaving his name out.
Right.
Beautiful house, and it's fantastic. And he used to teach me the martial aspects. Um, and oh, hey, Clinton, when you're using this form, did you realize that when you sink down lower and you lift your elbows up, and then you need no force in getting them off of you whatsoever. So then he would demonstrate like martially how this would be effective. And you're sitting there like, oh my God, that actually really works. And a lot of people, when they're doing Tai Chi, they don't understand that aspect. And the true masters and the true students, when they get deeper into it, they understand why it's so powerful. It's relaxing, but then why it's so deadly, why it's so respected.
Mm.
You don't see it in MMA, you don't see it in that type of, but it's great for just getting someone right, get the hell off of me, like right now. It's like one
Mhm.
of those martial arts where it's so like a 100-pound woman can absolutely flip over a 300-pound guy if done
Yeah.
correctly. Like,
Wow.
and so
Man, that's
it's that,
amazing.
yeah. So where to direct people? This is interesting. This is challenging. It really depends on where someone is.
Mhm.
Because unless someone understands the martial arts, right, you'll see a lot of people go into the motions of Tai Chi, but understanding that one must first understand, go through the motions of the form for a teacher to arise to show the martial aspects. 9 times out of 10, you can't just show up and say, "I want to understand the martial aspects of Tai Chi."
When the student
It
is
doesn't
ready,
really
the master will appear, kind of thing.
exactly like the person that I'm talking about and the people in my circle now, they didn't appear until someone was like, I think you're ready to learn this. Like somebody
Wow.
pulled me aside and was like, I actually think you're ready to understand exactly what's going on here. And I'm like, okay. And then I start learning, and you're like, I guess I was ready. This makes a lot of sense. And
Wow.
so a lot of people won't even have access to that until they go through enough years of Tai Chi and being fluid enough and being malleable enough to be able to receive. And that's what's tricky about like Tai Chi and certain martial arts. You can't just like show up and be like, teach me this. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, throw a punch. Like,
Right.
start you right at the basics, and you'll be like frustrated. I want to learn. I want to learn, and it's just actually with patience, and that's something that most people don't have. They don't have patience. Like,
Hmm.
so.
Would you say a big part of Tai Chi is like the whole energetic aspect of it, and like you're learning how to work with energy and like redirect it? Is that a big part of behind it?
So I want to say yes. I'm still learning. I will be learning for the rest of my life.
Right.
I'm only 38. Like I just turned 38.
Hmm.
I feel like until I'm 65 or 75, will I
Right.
actually really understand?
So
Like
you see
until
those
I'm like,
75-year-olds in the park in China just getting it, man. They're just living the
absolutely,
dream.
absolutely. Until I'm twice my age, I don't think I'm qualified enough to really say whether I get it or not.
Wow.
And you might be like, well, Clinton, that sounds crazy. You've done it off and on for 20 years. Don't you think that you would? No, I actually don't think I'm anywhere. And I think I have a long way to go.
Hmm.
But there are aspects of Tai Chi where I really do think only come with patience and time, and really only come with age. And realizing that you can't rely on your muscles. You can't rely on, you can't rely, you don't have any muscles. You don't have any, like only will that logic be able to kick in, and you'll be like, oh wow, now I actually understand positioning, leverage, and what to do. Like, so yes.
Very cool, man. Wow. I am fully enrolled in Tai Chi. You know what's crazy about what you said? You're literally talking to me. You're like, if someone's looking for a martial art, but they don't know where to start. So my background is I did Taekwondo all my childhood. I was first degree black belt in Taekwondo. And then I just stopped at 14. But I love martial arts, but a big part of me, I have this like resistance to jujitsu and just like this whole like MMA thing that's happened. And like I have a very good friend who's a jujitsu black belt and chiropractor, Dr. Arman Fati. I've had him on the podcast. And he's just like
Mhm.
all the time telling me, Adrian, you need to do jujitsu. Adrian, you need to do jujitsu. Adrian, you're gonna love it. And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. Some part of me has this resistance. I don't know why, but I'm looking for a martial art to get into, and appreciate you for this because wow. Tai Chi and then Qigong is, related to that. Do you get into that realm as well?
Absolutely. So at the end of most of our classes for Tai Chi, we usually do Qigong breathing. There's a set of 9 breaths, which open up the the meridians within our body and also the chakras. And actually, they hit particular points in our body, which not only energizes, but just like clear our mind from anger, from frustration, for like a litany of different things. And so Qigong and also Tai Chi go hand in hand. It's interesting. I haven't figured this out yet. I am still a student, and I really would love to get to a place where I instinctively know the correct breathing while going through the motions of Tai Chi. I think a lot of times that knowing when to inhale, exhale, to take in energy and to express energy, that naturally comes with the breathing exercise of Qigong. Putting that into Tai Chi would actually make it far more effective and more and more deadly as a martial art, actually.
Yeah, deadly
I,
or like any tool, right? You can use a knife to kill or you can use it to heal, in a surgery. Same thing with this. It's a tool. You can use it deadly or medical qigong, like you said, right? That's a very powerful. I've seen some wild videos, and those are just the ones that are public. Who knows what's in those private circles? I mean, I know that it's amazing what's possible with the right mind and intention and energy going into it. So I have, yeah, I'm enrolled is all I'll say.
no, yeah, totally. It's fun stuff. It's a journey. It's not a destination. There will be no, oh, Clinton is a master. It's just, do I enjoy going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole?
Yeah,
That's literally it. Do I enjoy going deeper down this hole? Is there a place where I want to stop? Probably not. Um,
love that.
and yes,
Love that, man. Well, I just want to, be respectful of time, but I do want to get into the topic of the real hot topic of today, blockchain, cryptocurrency, this whole thing, man. with your background and knowledge, I'm just honestly really grateful and honored to have you on this podcast because you know what you're talking about in this realm. So please just educate and empower the listeners for a bit, if you don't mind, on your take on what's going on, the whole potential behind this disruptive innovation, and then some ways to make money if you're okay sharing.
Some ways to make money. Hey, Clinton, you know that investment you have where you're making way more money than you're making at your regular job? Why don't you tell us about that? Okay. Okay,
Yep.
so, and that you don't really talk about it, like really in public and put it on your podcast. Can you do that for me? That'd be cool. Sure,
All up to
Adrian.
you. All up
Why
to you what
not?
you can
Let's just put
share,
it up.
or
Let me
private
just
message us for more info.
yeah, private message, Adrian. Like and subscribe on whatever channel this podcast is on,
Yeah.
and he will convey to you. I'm just playing. So yeah, we're it's all laughs and giggles. It's all jokes and fun. But seriously, I'm about to share about what's going down.
Yes, sir.
But first, so what's interesting about blockchain and cryptocurrency and this mindset shift that's happening this past century. It's really at around the turn of the century. There is another mindset shift of how we do transactions and money. Once people wrap their heads around this one concept, blockchain will make sense, cryptocurrency will just make sense. When people realize that all cryptocurrency is a digitization of how we do money currently, then they'll get it.
Yeah.
Like how we have ledgers, how we keep track of records, how we transfer money. It's like the difference between pen and paper and a computer. That's literally the basis of blockchain and cryptocurrency. And
Right.
so once people realize like, oh, blockchain and crypto is basically how our banking system currently works, but it is on the internet and it's decentralized. Wow. Okay. I basically just summed it up right there. Now,
Right.
people are still going to be like, well, Clint, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Like, I don't
What's
really.
the impact of that? What you just said? That's the,
Oh, yeah. What's the impact of digitizing how we currently have financial transactions? Now, the financial transactions right now are in a digital form, meaning like when you swipe a credit card, it takes it's immediately like debited and credited and Visa and MasterCard. And there's systems behind that which facilitate these transactions. And there's settlement periods and times in ACH and all that. Yeah, we all kind of know that.
Mhm.
But the impact of blockchain and cryptocurrency is that we get about 2 to 3 orders of magnitude speed up and how they're settled.
Mm.
So imagine something that takes about a couple days to go through a transaction. A couple days, let's pull out a calculator. A couple days is, I used to be able to do math like stupid fast in my head, but now
Yeah.
it's just not happening nowadays. So 2 days is equivalent to 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 48 hours in 2 days. And how many hours in a day? There's 24.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, 48 hours in 2 days. And there's 60 minutes in an hour. So let's see, 60 times 48, that's 2,880 minutes, right? So something that normally would take 2,880 minutes is taking 15 minutes. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Bitcoin version 0. We're not even talking about the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is having it in seconds. So it's about 3 to 4 orders of magnitude faster than our current financial. Do you realize how much more we can do if you realize that what it took you 2 days to do, you can do in 2 seconds?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and people are wondering like, oh, cryptocurrency, I shouldn't invest in it. Blockchain, ooh, I'm scared of regulations. Nobody in their right mind would invest in the previous system over a system that's 3 to 4 orders of magnitude time. It's just a matter of time. There's just no possible way any business that has any common sense in their mind would invest in the previous system, knowing that a competitor is going to easily come 3 to 4 times orders of magnitude. I'm not talking times, not 3 to 4x, magnitude, like 1,000 to 10,000 times
Right.
faster. And
Right.
so when we talk about impact, the impact of this would be phenomenal. Whoever invests in this infrastructure will be wealthy. This is why you see people immediately they invest $2 in Dogecoin like 15 years or like not 15 years ago, like a year or 2 years ago are now worth $100,000 or some ridiculous. It's
Yep.
because there's 3 to 4 orders of magnitude more power. So you put $2 in it, oh, you're going to get 3 to 4. Take 2 to times 10 to the 4. It's $20,000, $200,000, or whatever. That's why they're getting that much money out of it. And
Yep.
people are like, these gains are insane. Well, no, the technology in it itself is that powerful.
Yep.
So to me, all the gains people see in crypto, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like, it just makes sense in my mind. Like, you're going to be able to make that much money because it's just that much better.
Mm-hmm.
So, so in terms of impact, that's why I see the impact.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we go to different types of blockchains, when we go to proof of work, and this is funny. This is actually kind of related to health, but I'll bring it full circle. I'll bring it full
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
So you have proof of work where it's primarily for Bitcoin, was however much work you do, you actually get a reward for it.
Mm-hmm.
They say it is not environmentally sound. They say it's
Right. With all the mining and
you
all the, infrastructure behind that.
right with the coal mining and with like nuclear power. Like, they're just throwing random stuff out there, but the reality is that they could easily switch over to renewables, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a problem at all. Like if it was really a problem, then it would actually be a problem. But yeah, it takes up a lot of energy. But you can easily go to renewable energy for that.
Mm-hmm.
But proof of work basically means however much work you do, you get a reward for it. And that's, in my opinion, fair in regards to how Satoshi Nakamoto originally wanted the system to go into. If you haven't read his original Bitcoin paper, you should read it. I've skimmed it, but if you want to get into details, like I should post a link to this. Like there's this fascinating YouTube. This is how blockchain works, and this is why it was created, and then blah blah blah.
Oh,
I'll probably give it to
send it
Adrian
to me and I
afterwards.
could put it in the show notes if you don't mind.
Yeah, totally. Like it's fascinating. It's like you're like, oh, it pretty much explains everything that I'm explaining, but
Okay.
I'm trying to summarize it in a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's proof of work. Yes, however much work you do, that's how much reward you get. Then there's proof of stake. Now, proof of stake surprisingly is more like our system nowadays. And the system nowadays means like however much money you have, you actually get more money. It's like that the rich basically get richer.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty about proof of stake is that with having a certain amount, you get a certain amount of shared rewards from that amount for securing the network, basically allowing transactions. Like if you know that there's about $50 billion worth of liquidity of people locking up and saying, I believe in this network with 50 billion, more likely it's going to succeed because there's just so many people that are invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's the benefit over for proof of work. The downside is that when you think about decentralization and democracy, proof of stake is going to lead to more people with larger hands holding more and
Mm-hmm.
being more powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why you see a lot of the hardcore Bitcoin proponents being like, I don't really like this. This isn't for the people. Like, because you can immediately see how like a government or a bad actor or just an entity that just wants to take power, just come in and be like, I'm just going to buy everything, and then everybody believes it has to be subjugated to what I do, right? So
Yep.
then there's proof of history. Proof of history is the Solana network, which is I believe made by Elon Musk's brother,
Oh.
quote unquote, and it's been spiking recently for particular reasons, like hint hint,
Mm-hmm.
trying to drop some hints of where you should invest.
Uh-huh.
So like, but it's based on this I'm less familiar about, but it's based on the history of the transactions that you have on your node
Mm.
and how long you've been on the chain and been able to get transactions that are logged onto your part of the blockchain. Now, I could be wrong. So proof of history is less known to me. I know more about proof of work, proof of stake, but essentially it's based on history as opposed to how much money you have, or based on how much work you do. Like it's based on how much history you have. And so what's interesting is when we think of impact, it's kind of like the wild, it's like, imagine, remember Google and Microsoft and Facebook when they first got started or whatever?
Mhm.
I see, and this is what I predict that there's going to be several platforms that are going to take over, on which everything is going to flow, that are going to be compliant with government regulations and being able to know your customer. And it's all going to be automatic, and it's all going to be able to trade between China currency, United States currency, Switzerland, Australian dollar. Like it's all going to be digitized on some of these platforms. I think Ethereum is going to eventually be one of these platforms. I think Cardano, I think Solana, I think anything where you're eventually going to have smart contracts is going to really come up. And I think Bitcoin is going to be an absolute anchor for a lot of countries.
Yes.
Because in order for things to be fair, I really do think out of all of them, I think proof of work is fair, because you need a lot of money to be able to get rewards, or you need to like work really hard to get rewards. Now, if you put a lot of money in it, there's only so much reward you're going to get out of it, but it's still fair. Just walking in with a bunch of money and getting a bunch of rewards is not fair.
Mhm.
It's just in my mind, it's just not fair. So these are some of my takes. I am no expert in this. Some people will probably listen to me and be like, well, he kind of sort of knows what he's talking about, but he kind of doesn't. Some
Sure.
people like, actually, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, actually, I'm pretty sure about 90% of what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure about it.
for sure.
Um, but to put a bow and ribbon around the impact, I really do believe that if people were trying to figure out where to invest or what to do, my advice, and I've given this advice recently, not in the past. In the past, you could put your money in almost anything and it would go up, like literally, like because it was so new. I would actually put, if you're going to invest in platforms, I would invest in Cardano, I would invest in Solana, I would invest in Ethereum, I would invest in, of course, maybe a little bit in Bitcoin. Um, I would look at Neo, which is the Chinese Ethereum. I would look at anything where it's predominantly focused only in China. China has a unique way of basically copycatting what happens in other countries, and then just, and so like like there are billions of people like only benefit from it. So like if you invest in one of those, if you figure out what China is going to invest in, then you're pretty much going to be wealthy or rich right there, because
Yeah.
you know you're going to get at least a billion people like just offer it.
Yeah.
I would invest in that. If you're like, I'm a little bit more risky, there are some alternative ways to get into crypto, which I will share with Adrian offline. They're not dubious or anything like that, but they take a little bit more technical expertise. One is master noding. Master noding requires the ability to provide liquidity to a network and being able to uh, have a server liquidity and being able to reap rewards for that, regardless if the market goes up or down. Now, that's challenging for a lot of people, and even for me, I messed up a few times and I almost lost my collateral. So I don't recommend a lot of people go that route. So there's other means of investing in master noding for getting a decent return on investment. Um, there's liquidity pools. Liquidity pools are excellent, where you can invest a certain amount and then you get a certain share of the liquidity pool. And they have a really good return on investment depending on which liquidity pool you get into. That's another avenue investment. And derivatives, Ledger X is excellent. They just released Ethereum derivatives. They've had Bitcoin derivatives for over a year. If you want to have speculative looks into the market and you want to not put your entire nest egg into, I highly recommend going into, it's like a stock derivative. It's like a buy and a put in the stock, and be able to
Mhm.
understand I'm betting it's going to go up and betting it's going to go down. If you understand that, then going into derivatives for Bitcoin and
Right.
Ethereum and
Is
also
it like
different.
options for Bitcoin and Ethereum, basically? That's pretty cool. I didn't know that existed right now.
Oh yeah, so what I mean derivatives, it means options and futures. So like
Okay.
there's some options and futures market in the United States. Well, there's one that I'm aware of that's available in the United States. I believe the CME group also has options and futures and derivatives for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Okay.
Um, and but once again, we can go. This is a rabbit hole. We can go
Yeah.
deeper down into it. But
Yeah.
Ledger X is a great platform for that. For masternoding, you probably want to hit us up privately,
Hmm.
and we can explain where to invest there, uh, how to get that set up. Like hit up Adrian. You can contact me directly. Adrian will find me. We can work together, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, but let's see. For options and futures, Ledger X. Ledger X is available in the United States. For people overseas, oh, if you're overseas in certain countries, you have the space and opportunity to do whatever you want. The United States is very much put the clamp down on certain exchanges. But if you lived in like Switzerland or if you lived in like Australia or if you lived in Singapore, you are like literally in the best place. Like I don't care who you are. Like you're literally at the epicenter of where you can do financial transactions. And yeah,
That's exciting.
so totally.
I have
But yeah,
family
once
all over the
again,
world, actually, Switzerland and Eastern Europe. I'm Albanian, so I'm a lot of my family there, and they'll be excited to hear that.
oh, they would be so excited. There's certain derivatives markets we just cannot access in the United States. We just cannot. It's not legal. So the ones I mentioned, Ledger X and the CME group, they're within the United States. The dark side about, I believe, CME group, I think you need to have a quite a bit of money to be able to get involved with their options.
Hmm.
But I've used Ledger X. Ledger X is fine. You'll be fine with
Awesome.
Ledger X.
Awesome.
Um, cool.
That was very helpful. Really appreciate you sharing all that, Clinton. And wow, got lots of rabbit holes to go down there. So, and I'm sure everybody listening will as well. So, really appreciate you for that. And yeah, man, that's all I had on our list here to talk about. If there's anything else you wanted to share or get into here, the floor is all yours. But yeah, I really appreciate having you on, and can't wait to continue this journey down. Lots of exciting things we talked about here. So yeah, anything else for you?
Oh, no, just a shameless plug. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, we have a Mateman Investing, a Mateman-investing.com, and we are offering services to help people realize their financial freedom. And so what I mean by that is, like, you sign up for one of our courses, one of our programs, we'll be able to map out, basically teach you how to do some of the investing strategies that I personally do, that I've learned while I've been at Google, what I've learned on my own from mastering and blockchain. And I would love to, like, I absolutely love teaching. I love teaching a man how to this. I love teaching people how to do this. And some people just say, hey, Clinton, here's a bunch of money. Why don't you just manage it for me? I'm like, that's great. But I kind of love it when the people have that aha moment that they can do it themselves.
Hmm.
And
Teach a
so
man
we
to
would love to
fish.
connect. Exactly. Like Adrian, you probably feel the same way. Like when you realize like a patient is learning and they're growing. It's very gratifying to see that they're moving more towards becoming their own doctor or their practitioner, and they
Yep.
become more of a, yeah. It's like it's a funner conversation. It's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
So feel free to reach out to Adrian, investing.com, and reach out to us. We'll be happy to help out. And if you want any more information, contact Adrian. He can get in contact with me, Clinton Buie, and sure, let's do this. Whatever you want, we got it for you.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And look forward to all the amazing, exciting things we get to create together as a team, both of us individually and for the whole world and everybody that we love and cherish. So thanks again, man. And we'll see you real soon.
Yeah.